Hi everyone, I'm Bowen from the People's Daily. Welcome to the first edition of the PD Roundtable, Nishan Youth Dialogue. Nishan, or Mount Ni, is the birthplace of the Chinese thinker Kongzi or Confucius. It's also the venue of the 10th Nishan Forum on World Civilizations. Here, people from China and the world are being invited to come to the foot of Nishan to discuss the integration and mutual learning among civilizations to hopefully come up with solutions to global challenges. And in our today's Nishan Youth Dialogue, we have guests from different countries so that you can contribute your wisdom of youth to also promote mutual learning among different cultures. But let's start with a self-introduction session so that we can get to know each other better.
Hi, my name is Lila, also known by my Chinese name Xingyue. I'm from California, currently living in Shanghai, and I actually came to China first for university. After learning Chinese in high school, I thought that it was really interesting, and so I wanted to come here to see it for myself and go to university here. And then while I was in university, I wasn't sure if I would go back home to California or stay in China. But then while I was in university, I actually met some friends and we started a media company together. So it's an MCN and it focuses on cross-cultural communication through the world of social media. So I feel like the topic today is very fitting and I'm really glad to be here.
Hello everyone, I'm Javier, I'm from Ecuador. I came to China almost 6 years ago. Also, like Laila, came to study to pursue my master's and PhD. And I came to China intrigued by this culture, definitely language and food. So for us, it was very special. Right now, I am a postdoctoral researcher at Peking University.
Hello, my name's Stu, I'm from the UK. I came to China in 2007, which is about 16 years ago, over 16 years ago.
16.
I think I'm the oldest person here at this youth dialogue.
The China hand.
Yeah. So I came to China after completing my studies at Oxford University. And I actually moved to a village in Beijing. So I lived in a village for a year, so I've experienced village life. And then I went to university here in China for a year to study Chinese, and I worked for some companies. And now I'm lucky enough to have my own travel and culture show. So I'm a content creator, and my show's called 四组点播秀, that's my name. And aside from doing all those things in Beijing, I've also been able to travel all over China and meet some amazing people and go to some amazing places and do some amazing things. For instance, I tried to run a marathon on Gangzhou Dajiao, so the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge, and I failed. It was terrible. And I've even been in a Boke competition. You know what Boke is?
Yeah.
So Boke is wrestling.
Podcast.
Yeah. No, it's wrestling.
Vlog.
Amongst the ethnic Mongolian group in Inner Mongolia.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So, and they wear very interesting clothes, and I joined in.
Wow.
Of course, I lost. And if you haven't guessed, my show is a comedy show, right? So because I truly believe that comedy is one of the common values that
It's
we
the
share
bridge.
between societies and different cultures.
Hi everyone, my name is Jia Yi and I'm from Singapore. I came here since 10 years ago for my high school, bachelor's, and then for my current master's in doing choreography. So back in my days when I was doing my bachelor's in Chinese ethnic and folk dance performance, I have a lot of opportunities to go on field work and personal exploration. So I think that was what attracted me the most about China, the vast landscape and the unique ethnic heritage. So I've been to Nadam Festival in Inner Mongolia at Bayangol and to Mount Baekdu in Yanbian, etc. But the influx of ethnic culture and to be able to experience different forms of culture is actually eye-opening for me because it allows you to not just broaden your horizons but to live in the eyes of others and to share these beautiful cultures together. So I think that's what's precious about being here in China about.
Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer Simo from Uganda and I'm currently pursuing my Master's in Fine Arts, Film and Television Production at Communication University of China. What is so unique about me, I've lived in 5 countries in a lifespan of 5 years. If I may tell you the best country I've been to within those 5 years is China because it's so diverse. As far as culture, China holds a special place in my heart.
Thank you. All right, guys, before we start our discussion today, I prepared some questions for you. It will be a China culture quiz. And I will give you a multi-choice question, and you can just write down the answer over the whiteboard on the table. So here we go. The first one. You know, China, when people say China, archaeological evidence reveals that China is a country that has more than 5,000 years of history. And many people come to China to go to the museums, to learn about the history. The first question is about, do you know which one of the artifacts was unearthed in China? Just take a look. I think this may be a little difficult because they all look kind of similar to each other, which echoes the theme that we all share similarities across different cultures. But write down your answer. What's yours?
C.
Wow. And yours?
I wrote D.
D. Jiayi. B. Boy.
Hey!
Hey, oh, wow.
I think all four.
What? So, the right answer is boy. Jiayi, congrats.
I think we're both right.
Half a point.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So A looks very Roman, C looks like Shiva from India,
Wow.
and D looks Egyptian. So I guess B might be the one. Yeah.
You must be a A+ student in your high school history class. Chinese speaking opera is a national treasure and is also a national intangible cultural heritage. In Chinese speaking opera, there are 4 types of characters. So I would like you to answer which one of these represents Hua Dan. Hua means flower in Chinese. So you will have your clue. Do we have the answers?
Yeah.
Can we do that, Stuart?
Have you taken a test before in your life? Do you know how a test works?
See which one's right, and
Okay.
I'll rub the wrong one out.
Okay, we'll give you a pass this time. Let's see if it's B or C. What about you, Jennifer?
A.
You chose A. Interesting. You're leaning towards C,
Gone with
Stuart.
C.
Tell me why.
Majority
Because they
wins.
all chose C.
Majority
A or
wins.
C.
Okay, so the right answer would be C. Because Hua Dan means kind of a girly female name because it has flower in its name. The first one, can you guess? It's like a role in Peking opera that plays a martial role, like Wu Sheng. And the second one is another female role that's called Qingyi. And the third one is Hua Dan. And the last one, it's a clown, I think, Chou. And the last question here, I think it will melt your hearts. Oh, I'm sure it will melt your hearts. Giant pandas. Okay, in Chengdu research base for giant panda breeding, there's this giant panda cub that's dubbed as the world's top female panda star. And it's called Hua Hua, and people will queue for hours just to take a glimpse of Hua Hua, and it's very famous on the internet. It became an internet sensation. So just let me know, which one of these do you think is Hua Hua? I guess maybe pick the cutest one, do you think?
They're all
They're also colored.
They are all so cute, I know. Just
They
pick
look
your
alike.
favorite, maybe. 2, 1. Okay, let me show. A. A. Well, we only have one winner in this round.
C, yeah.
Do you think it's C? Well, the answer actually is boy. Congrats, Jiayi. This is you should visit the zoo. You should visit the Chengdu research base just to take a real look at the Hua Hua. Well, I would like to quote a sentence from Confucius. Confucius once said, "What a joy it is to have friends coming from afar." And welcome to Nishan and welcome to China. I believe most of you have lived in China for quite a long time. So this quote applies to you, but maybe now you have some knowledge of China. I just want to ask this. Do you think you have integrated with China, with this country, with the society, in terms of food, diet, or language?
I think for the food, I know we're all like talking about like spicy and
food.
stuff. And because it's true, like when you first get here, it's like if you haven't experienced that kind of spice before, like you'll be very like surprised because I'm from California and we're close to Mexico, so we have a lot of Mexican food that can be spicy, but it's a different kind of spice than Chinese food.
Yeah.
Like,
It has that numbness
yeah, exactly.
with
like,
pepper.
Yeah, those like huajiao.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone like who's watching doesn't know what huajiao is, it's like this round little pepper, and if you bite down on it, like your mouth goes numb. And the first time I tried it, I really thought that I like was poisoned. Like I thought. No, really, like I was like crying. That had never happened to me before. When you're like eating something and your whole mouth goes numb, I was like, oh my god, I came here to study. I came here to learn, and now I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, what if I die? But I was okay. So.
When everyone first came, did they all think they knew what real Chinese food was? Because I thought I did. And then
Well,
I
in America,
realised-
I studied in America. There's a Panda Express. That's
Yeah.
like a Chinese-American
Sure.
food chain. Yeah.
Yeah, in Britain, Chinese food is the most popular takeout.
Yeah.
So I came here
Packaged in
thinking-
that little box with.
different to US
different.
takeout,
Okay.
but and very different. But anyway, I came to China thinking, yes, I love Chinese food, and then I was asking for dishes that just don't exist.
It was like a totally different thing.
Yeah, people were looking at me like, what's he talking? Lemon chicken?
Like General Toast chicken. Like that's
yeah, things like that. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm fifth generation. Earlier, my ancestors are from China in Fujian. So when there's this Xiananyang, and then my ancestors came down to Singapore, which is then the Malayan islands. I have a Chinese appetite, and yeah, I enjoy Chinese food. But when you are here, you realize there's so much to Chinese food, which includes, which I love eating Chinese food. Apart from the food itself, it's the settings. It's because you can sit together like a family in a
Very
round
rural now
table.
in Chinese. You have like a very lively atmosphere.
Yes. And it's a round table where
Yeah.
everyone is a family.
So we
You can
share
eat
a lot.
together, you talk, and it's about the whole atmosphere of having a meal together.
Yeah. But I guess in some places in China, you can also enjoy late night snacks, like with people on the streets, like a late night fast food market.
You can eat
Chongqing,
at 5
especially
and
in
Chongqing.
Yeah.
And Chongqing.
through the day.
Absolutely.
When you eat with others, it's very real now, right? And I think that's one of the areas where you can actually absorb Chinese culture or aspects of Chinese culture, like the idea of putting food on someone else's plate.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in Britain.
In Britain.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know about the US.
Do you find that
are you
annoying? Like, do you find that annoying at first? Like when people like put food in your plate?
Sometimes. Sometimes, if it's
If
something
a
I don't
stranger,
like.
if it's a
Yeah.
stranger, like a first time meeting
Sure.
on the table, like
But,
yeah.
but only if it's something I don't like.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't mind them putting food on my plate.
Oh,
if
really?
it's Like,
I thought like you would mind
if
the
there's,
hygiene
if there's like
concerns
ribs,
or.
and they give me vegetables, I'd be like,
Well, that's very interesting.
I really liked that at first when I came because I wasn't super used to like going for like food in the center
That's
of the
very
table.
far from you.
Yeah.
Like, would you call for help? Would you ask someone for help, or you just wait until the food turns to your?
Well, I would like wait for it to turn to me, or like I would just feel like shy, like even if it was kind of close, because I wasn't used to like reaching out to the center to be
Yeah.
like, that's mine.
But what about now? Like, do you still feel shy when you try to reach for your food?
No, not anymore. Like now I'm used to it. But back then it was really nice that like people would like pick up on that and be like, oh,
Give
like
it
she's
to-
shy, and be like,
And they
"Here,
understand.
Yeah.
eat some meat, eat some
Please
veggies."
eat.
Yeah.
So, I guess you have all visited the Confucius Museum and the three Confucius Temple this morning, and I'm just looking forward to your takeaways. Tell us, what about your visit?
One of my favorite things about Confucius, which I mean, it's a very basic answer, it's probably like most people's answers, is just like his sayings, because they're from so long ago, but they still ring so true today. Like, there's one that I really like that's like, 的不孤必有邻. Like, if you are a good person, like you will not be lonely and you will definitely have neighbors. And so I feel like it's like very fitting also for like today, because I feel like we all have like similar values, and so we all kind of like, you know, became each other's neighbors for the day.
I mean, the entrance and like how they decorate and they give the shape of Confucius with just some like glass blocks, but you can really see it. So that shocked me, and it's a beautiful place.
I think the word or the phrase that attracts me the most is actually this doctrine of the mean, 中庸之道. Oh, I thought it was a very, very well translated way of describing 中庸之道. By using mean as 中庸, it doesn't mean average, but it means somewhere equilibrium. It's so well translated in this way.
The whole of Confucianism, the most basic virtue is benevolence. And then you see it all around. I just thought it's very nice, especially compared to like Western political thinking or Western philosophy, where benevolence is kind of like it's a byproduct of usually religion, whereas here in China it underpins everything.
What is more interesting is during the Ming Dynasty. Ming Dynasty has a different picture of Confucius. It's the first time I'm seeing this picture because the one that we've been knowing is the famous picture of Confucius. So I'm wondering, how did this come about? Is the Confucius we know the real Confucius, or there is another Confucius that the Ming Dynasty was trying to portray in the museum? Then at the temple, I love how traditional the temple is. My brother called me, I put him on video call, and that showed him where
you are, Jennifer said, brought me to another question that I want to ask you. Have you ever tried to recommend a thing from China? Can be food or an item or a kind of a lifestyle to your friends and family back in your home country?
I think I'm going to start out kind of like big, which is just recommending China itself. Like, come here to China
Just to
see.
visit yourself, just to see the real China.
Yeah, I always do bring back like little gifts and like tell them like different stories. But I feel like the most comprehensive way to show them this country where I'm living is just to have them come over and check it out. Like my dad comes to visit me like all the time.
Wow.
Like we've been to Luoyang, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Sichuan, Guilin.
So many places.
Yeah, Xi'an, Guangzhou, like so many places. I'm always taking him like all over, and my sisters have come, and I really like showing them like a place that they maybe wouldn't have thought to come to before, and then also like from a perspective of knowing certain things that if they were to come on their own, they wouldn't be able to know necessarily. And so that's why I'm like actually really happy to see that there's this 144-hour visa policy, so that people can come here and like just
more
check it out.
conveniently,
Yeah.
Because maybe we talk about spicy food, but wherever you go, like type of food is completely different. You go to Xinjiang, you go to Yunnan, you go to Shandong, to the north. Oh, it's how many, like the options you have are like numerous, like infinite. But I think teenagers, as youth, are really engaged into coming to China. Like my sister, she's also considering like coming to study
In
Chinese
China?
language.
This tree came to my mind, Gugong, tea and incense. So these are the three that I myself practice a lot, and I visit Gugong, the Forbidden Palace, for quite a lot of times because I just like being there. I like being in hutongs, venturing in unknown hutongs, just maneuvering your way here and there in Qianmen, Dashila, and just being in hutongs, because that felt like Beijing.
I want to discuss the commonalities and differences between different cultures. As far as I know, many people here in China, the young people, after they graduate, when they first enter workplace, rectifying the workplace, they don't want to be part of the hustle culture in workplace, and they invented the term lying flat, which means I will not do more than the workplace required me to do. I will only do the minimum requirements. So I'm just interested in learning if this is also happening in your home country.
At least not for now, I think. No.
Like people are still very hardworking in Singapore.
I think so.
They're trying to be the number one in their own life, like they will compete with their peers.
I don't think it's about being number one, but emphasize on work-life balance. So not necessarily lying flat or achieving being at the top or number one, but more about I think the equilibrium between both worlds, which is you have what you can achieve in your job and also in daily life, I guess.
I think it's a little bit of both because we have, we totally agree when if you work for a company, then you can lay flat, right? And probably they don't want to do more because they already have a stable job and then they get a salary. And on the other hand, we have a lot of self-employed people. If they couldn't just work, then they couldn't like buy things, and it's just a lot of struggle there. So it's up to them if how long they want to work.
What about you, Stuart?
I think people.
You must be knowing the term well because well, no offense, I'm not. No, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just suggesting that you have more knowledge of the Chinese culture, pop culture,
Kind
as
of.
you were.
I mean,
yeah.
in the UK, I think people would like to lie flat, but we don't have the conditions that allow it. For example, here in China, things like travel, transport is very convenient, but also it isn't too expensive. Whereas in the UK, everything's far too expensive. People think they get ripped off all the time. So they would probably like to lie flat, but they can't. Because
the
of
pressure.
the state of the economy, the economy's not doing so well, and also because the cost of living in the UK is just so high for a developed country. But to be honest, I've never met anyone here in China that actually practices lying flat. It's something to aspire to. It's like retiring early, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to retire early
Yeah.
and do nothing, but you have to work hard to do that. So I think people maybe are working really hard in order to lie flat.
Yeah.
I've never actually met
That makes
anyone
sense.
that does it at the moment. Maybe they, especially not in Beijing, at least.
Maybe
Where the
third
rent
or
might be
fourth year.
cheaper,
Yeah.
and where you could do that.
You can
save
basically
it.
just enjoy your life and just live on a
Yeah.
small income.
That's the dream, yeah.
I mean, I also think that it's something that people talk about, but they don't
Practice.
necessarily do. And I feel like in the US it's kind of similar. Like places that are competitive will always be competitive. Like Silicon Valley, it's always going to be competitive. Like getting into an Ivy League, it's always going to be competitive. Like people who are like in those worlds are not going to be lying flat.
I think lying flat may not necessarily mean doing the bare minimum, but to do our things with more efficiency so that you can allocate more of your time to life priorities.
There's a foreigner and he posts on Chinese media about whether a thing or an event is city or not.
Oh, there's my friend.
Oh, really?
一起看日落 ，city 不 city 啊
City 啊啊啊啊！
对，看日落就是很 city 的。
Well, his videos are super funny, and many young people are trying to copy and imitate that slogan and apply that to their real life. And I just want to know what things in your mind can be called a city here in China.
Shanghai. It's a city because I just
Shanghai.
moved there.
Yeah. Oh, fancy.
But a lot of people who work in the creative sector who are my friends are in Shanghai. So living there, I feel like it's very vibrant and there's this creative energy that really energizes me. So, I feel like that creative energy is very city.
Transaction, e-transaction, e-delivery, that's something very silly to me because it's not as often in Singapore, back in my home country, that you have such bankless, cashless payment, or even which is you can easily get your delivery, your groceries, your medicines, your anything just off the phone.
And I'm just curious to know more about your cross-cultural communication stories, starting from you, Jiayi, because I know you have visited so many places in China to teach dances, to teach local kids how to dance. Yeah, tell us more about that.
Can I demonstrate?
Sure.
Okay, I'll do it.
Welcome back.
Back in my bachelor's days, I do Chinese ethnic and folk dance performance. And by fieldwork, we venture into these rural villages to experience their lives and to study the way they live. We will know how a dance came about. For example, in Miao village, in Piasha of Qiantongnan, where it's in the mountainous area, and for the locals, after they farm, they will have these long 扁担. And with this basket, so when they go down a mountain, it moves like that. So with this motion, it becomes a movement. For example, in Miao dance, it becomes dong ta dong ta dong ta 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 dong ta dong ta dong ta ta. And this motion came from this movement of the piantan as the local farmers go down the slope in the mountain. So if, for example, you're doing this, and it would take a whole toll on your thighs and your muscles, but by doing this, it alleviates the weight. So that's how I think the beauty of Chinese, you can see the beauty of Chinese culture or the wisdom of the local farmers through their daily lives, and how this wisdom translates into a culture in the form of dance or their songs or music. I think a very important part about cross-cultural experience and understanding comes from its personal experience itself. Because only when you step into the field, only when you really step into the shoes of others to experience its culture for yourself, you will realize that every culture, every heritage has its philosophy and outlook towards the way they live and look at the world. So in a sense, the examples that I raised, then you will realize that many things that you actually don't know until you really step into their shoes and try to look at the things and appreciate the things the way they do. So I think that's very important in cross-cultural appreciation.
That's very well said, and what a beautiful performance.
Thank you.
And Stuart, since you are the person who have lived in China for the longest time among us, except me, yeah, and I just want to know, do you have any latest discovery of the commonalities or the differences between Chinese culture and British culture?
So I went to Inner Mongolia for a long period of time as well. I travelled around Ulaanbaatar, and I went to lots of different banners. And one of the banners that we went to was the Owenkuzu banner, the Awenki autonomous banner. And there is a group of young herders there who really love football. And I'm from Britain, and we really love football, so I decided to find these guys and play football with them. And they were kind of shy, and we played, and then afterwards, I mean, I filmed us playing together and spoke to them, but they're very shy. But then afterwards, we just all sat down and ate and drank together and just started talking about football. And it was really, weird is not a good word, but it was kind of weird because apart from the fact that we were speaking Mandarin, I could have been in the UK. It was like this whole situation could be taking place in a city in the UK, apart from the language. So that's why sometimes the language barrier is obviously a difficult thing to get over. But aside from that, it was exactly the same. I mean, obviously the food was better than UK food, but everything else was the same. The things we were talking about was the same. The jokes were the same.
I also heard that you are making a documentary, right?
It's not really a documentary. Like I said, my parents have visited China and I filmed them. It's a vlog. I don't want to praise myself, but it's a very professional looking vlog.
I'm sure it is.
Where I take my parents around and everyone, if you read the comment section, everyone says 孝顺, which is filial piety. And everyone's quite surprised that a British guy would be filial towards his parents. However, I'd like to say that even though, so this is a Confucian value and it's emphasized in China, in Britain, and I'm sure in all of your countries, we're all filial towards our parents. The difference is that it's not a value that is emphasized when we are growing up in school, whereas in China it is.
Yeah.
It's a very much appreciated quality.
Yeah. And obviously I've learned more about appreciating it whilst being in China and then transfer that. But I would still be good to my parents even if I didn't come to China.
Yeah.
In terms of like differences and like commonalities, I think that, there are a lot more commonalities, but I don't think it's like we should just dismiss the differences, because I think sometimes the differences are what bring us to the commonality. I really like finding something that seems different and then even making it like a point of humor, like a joke, and then once you kind of lay it out and you talk about it, you realize that like what's underneath is a group of people who just like to laugh about something. So I went to Tianjin and they have these aunties and they do these like hairstyles that I'd never seen before. And they started out just like, And then she started like doing them for like TV appearances. And then she just started getting really creative with it. And so they're like peacocks and like mermaid tails. And I was like, oh my God, I have to meet her. I have to go. And so I went there and I like did this updo. And it was so amazing. I never seen anything like it. It's like a purple mermaid tail, and it has lights that you can turn on.
这头发就适合晚上哎，你这风都吹不倒。你看这个风多大。
And they flash.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, this is like very special. This is like very unique. And then the whole like hair studio just became like very lively and loud. But everyone was just there to have a good time, and everyone was just genuinely enjoying this like conversation and renal environment.
Just enjoy the moment of themselves looking their best in that hairstyle.
Yeah, and then I put the video online, and like whether it was like the Chinese audience or like the foreign audience, everyone was like, that is so funny, that's amazing, I love that, I want to go. So I'm like, see, anything can bring us together.
In my home country, Singapore, it's also an integration of different races, which we have 4 big main races of Chinese, Malay, Indians, and Eurasian. So in a sense, how Singapore tried to integrate these 4 races together can be considerable factors in thinking about how you can bridge cultures together. So I think there's mainly 3. For the first, we have this thing called racial harmony. By racial harmony will be what Stuart has mentioned about celebrating each of our cultural festivals with events and experiences. So when you experience that festival, you are part of the festival. On the second will be housing policy. When you put different races together in the same building, you have to integrate. You have to have common corridors and you share similar, for example, facilities together. And with such housing policy that puts you together, you have to communicate, you have to conversate with people from different races. And I think a part of that, what makes a city international will also be that, because you have people from all over the world, from all walks of life, coming together and living in the same community.
Do you have any wisdom to share? It might not necessarily be something from your country's history, but maybe from your own experience that can help tackle real-life challenges or real-life problems that you encountered, or any young people from other countries they may encounter when they first come to China or any other foreign country.
Yeah, I mean, we can join those two of the things she mentioned. It's like a festival and food. This is something I experienced only while I study in China. Like during the semester, there's one day the university hosts like the international festival, and then you have like many international students, right? So they all have their own booth and they prepare their food, like for the whole university. I mean, like I've never seen that many interested in this type of cultural event. I studied in Australia and we didn't have that one. I mean, over there we have like maybe a small one, but not to this level. Like we had friends from Peru, Colombia, as well Argentina, and there were like so many Chinese people actually speaking Spanish.
Wow.
We're like, I haven't met someone like talking to me in Spanish, like on the street, but once we had that booth and they approach you and they talk to you in Spanish, fluent in Spanish, we can understand them, like exchange, and it was like amazing. You feel like they know about your country. You feel proud, you feel happy.
It would be great if we could put into practice the willingness to influence others and also be influenced by others. Because I think that now, like especially with like social media, we do know a lot about other cultures, but sometimes we tend to be like, oh, like that's just our culture, that's just how it is, or oh, that's their culture, like we know about it, but it's not ours. Like for example, Benjamin Franklin was actually like very influenced by Confucius. Like he wrote a lot of essays about him, like he was very influenced by his thinking, and he wasn't like trying to hide it or anything. He was like, there's this guy named Confucius, he has these great teachings and I've learned a lot from them and I think everyone could too, so here's an essay about his teachings. And I feel like sometimes we don't see that as much today.
Proud of your heritage. Wherever I go, it's not only here, people know that I'm a Ugandan from Africa. So if you're not proud of who you are, who else will do? I love the way the Chinese culture spread around the world. Wherever you go, we have Fang restaurant in Kampala. How many Spanish restaurants do we have? Maybe the Mexican restaurant? Okay, but do we have the Ecuador restaurant maybe established by Xavier here? So if you're not proud of your heritage, how shall we bridge that gap? Then living exemplary lives as parents. I'll just give an example of African parents. People know African mothers as being tough, including my mother. Whether you're living in the US, UK, in the Netherlands, you'll remain an African and you cannot maybe imitate or learn whatever is being practiced in the UK. You remain an African parent's kid. Wow. Okay, because your parent lives an exemplary life, he's grooming you the way he was groomed, whether back in Africa or in Latin America or any other continent. Willing to integrate, I talked about this earlier on. There's some people, even though they relocate to other societies, they don't want to change. I'm this, I cannot change at maybe in my country or in my continent we do this like this. But if you're not willing to integrate, how shall we bridge this culture?
Xavier, what about you? Can you share a proverb from Ecuador so that can help possibly, we're living in a world where we're faced with instability and uncertainty, and we're trying to use some ancient wisdom to help solve global challenges, or maybe just to reduce misunderstanding between people from different cultures.
Something very famous that we like to say at the stadium.
Yeah.
We love football. We go to the match and we watch it like every single day. And there's a saying like, yes, we can, like si se puede in Spanish. That way we have hope for things, In my opinion, as long as we have hope and then we want something to fight for, then we can maybe in the future achieve it, because we can also need to be positive. So
we all need to be hopeful for the future. And Stuart, coming from the country of Shakespeare.
Yeah, we've got lots of thinkers, right?
Yeah.
I can give you two proverbs. There is an old English Anglo-Saxon saying that what pleases in one kingdom does not please everywhere. Basically meaning, don't, and in a modern context, just don't try and impose your thoughts
or values on other people, right?
And then the modern one, it's not so modern, but it's from Isaac Newton, who is considered as a natural philosopher as well as a scientist. He said, we build too many walls and not enough bridges. And this proverb, so to speak, it works in every aspect. It works in the sciences, it works in society, it works in international relations, it works today as well. Like, we need to not put up so many barriers. We need to build more bridges. It's very self-explanatory.
Swahili is a regional language in East Africa, and Uganda is part of East Africa. It says that asiyefunzwa na mamaye hufunzwa dunia. It is a Swahili word meaning that if you're not groomed by your parents, you'll be groomed by the world, which correlates with Confucius talking about respect for parents.
With globalization going on, we're still living in a world where regional conflicts are happening and regional isolation still happens in the world. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation today, that it was a really meaningful conversation where we really did open our hearts and we shared wisdom from our own country. And I'm glad that you also got a sense of how Confucius philosophy helped guide Chinese people, Chinese society in today's world, in dealing with people, in dealing with all kinds of issues in today's world. And you mentioned some very good points, like we are good neighbors no matter the distance. Like even I live in China, you're from America, and it's a 12 or 14-hour flight. That doesn't mean we're not good neighbors. We're still close to each other economically, culturally. And also education. Education is a very useful tool in promoting mutual understanding between different cultures. And also share. We need to share the essence of our culture, the beautiful parts, and we need to be proud of our own culture so that we can share the best parts of our culture with people from other countries, so that we can appreciate the good qualities of our own culture together. And today, at the birthplace of Confucius, we have this very meaningful conversation on how we can promote mutual learning and mutual understanding through cultural discussions. And just as President Xi Jinping's Global Civilization Initiative advocates let cultural exchanges transcend estrangement, mutual learning transcend clashes, and coexistence transcend feelings of superiority. And thanks again, everyone, for coming to the first edition of PD Roundtable, Nishan Youth Dialogue, for sharing your insights into cross-cultural communication. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.